What if I told you that I bought $1 million business without spending a single dollar of my own money? You see, I didn't have rich investors, I didn't have huge savings, and I definitely didn't win the lottery. So how did I pull it off? 3 words: creative business funding. A few years ago, I was running a marketing agency with decent income, but every month I felt like I was starting from zero. And then I thought of something that changed everything. What if I didn't build a business? What if I bought one instead? And in this video, I'm going to show you how I use credit stacking and seller financing to pull off a 7-figure business acquisition deal with $0 out of my own pocket, so you can learn how to do it as well. And trust me, it wasn't as easy as it sounds, but if I could do it, so can you. So a few years ago, I was running a marketing agency, and on the surface, everything looked great. I had clients, I had cash flow. I mean, I wasn't broke, but I wasn't exactly thriving either. But here's the thing that nobody tells you about running an agency. It's a treadmill. Every single month I had to chase new clients, negotiate new deals, and hope I didn't lose a retainer. It didn't matter how hard I worked. The moment a client left, my income dropped. One bad month, one budget cut, one shift in their strategy, and boom, your income takes a hit. I remember one month where I lost 3 clients back to back. Almost overnight, I went from feeling like I was winning to realizing I was trapped in a game that I couldn't scale. And that's when I had this realization that I don't own a business, I own a job. Sure, I mean, I was technically my own boss, but if I stopped working, the money stopped flowing in. And that's when I started asking a different question. Instead of constantly chasing new clients, what if I could buy an online business that already had clients, already having recurring revenue, existing clients, and systems already in place? A business that didn't need me to grind 24/7 just to stay afloat. So I started looking at online businesses for sale, and at first I thought that there's no way that I can afford any of these. The numbers were just insane. $1 million business, I mean, who has that kind of money just laying around? And I almost gave up right there and then. But then I noticed something buried in the fine print of some of these listings. Seller financing available. Some sellers were actually willing to finance part of the deal themselves. That meant that I didn't need to come up with the full price up front. And that got me thinking, if I could get a seller to finance most of the deal and then use creative funding strategies for the rest, I could buy a business technically with $0 out of my pocket. And that's when I became obsessed. I started researching every strategy that I could find: credit stacking, business acquisition loans, seller financing, SBA loans, you name it, and I researched it. And then I made the decision that changed everything. I told myself that I was going to buy a business no matter what. And now all I really needed was the right business and a plan to really make this happen. All right, so then I found that perfect business. The numbers looked great, the cash flow was solid, and the seller was motivated. But there was one massive problem. I had $0 to put down on this deal. So if I was going to make this work, I had to get creative. And after weeks of research, I found 3 funding strategies that would let me buy a business with none of my own money. The first one is credit stacking. Now, most people use credit cards for vacations, shopping, or emergencies. But for me, I use them to buy a business. Here's how it works. Instead of applying for 1 credit card at a time, I applied for 5 cards all at the same exact time. Because here's the thing, banks don't instantly update their systems. And because of this, I was able to get multiple approvals before any of them saw the new credit inquiries. And the best part here was that I was able to get 0% interest for 12 months. That meant that I had free money to work with as long as I paid it off strategically. Only 1 to 2% of the actual balance was due each month. Now here's where it gets interesting, because business credit stacking alone wasn't enough. I still needed more money to close the deal. And that's when I pitched the seller on financing part of the deal themselves. Now, why would a seller agree to this? Well, I had to sell them on why seller financing was actually in their best interest. They'd get paid over time, which meant lower taxes on a lump sum sale. I could offer them a slightly higher price in exchange for better terms, and they would still have some security in the business until it was fully paid off. And after some serious back and forth negotiations, the seller agreed to finance 40% of the deal. That meant that I only needed to cover 60% up front, which I had already lined up with my credit stacking strategy. So at this point, we were days away from closing the deal. Everything was lined up, The contracts were drafted, and the seller and I were both ready to sign. And then I got an email that changed everything. One of my biggest loan approvals was rescinded. Just like that, tens of thousands of dollars I was relying on for the deal were gone. Now at this point, most people would just have walked away from the deal. I mean, how in the heck was I supposed to cover this shortfall in this last minute? But I knew one thing. I had built serious trust with the seller, and I knew something else. He didn't actually want the highest offer. You see, most buyers were offering more money than me. But here's the thing. They didn't care about the business itself. These buyers just wanted to strip the company for its parts. They wanted to shut it down. They wanted to fire the employees and absorb the client list onto their own business. But the seller, this was his baby. He built his business from the ground up, and it mattered to him that the business stay intact. I had spent weeks talking with him, getting to know him, understanding what was really important to him. And because of that, I knew I had an opportunity. So I went back to the seller and I said, listen, we have a problem. One of my lenders just pulled out last minute, and I can't bring as much to the table as we had originally planned. But I don't want to back out of this deal. And I know you just don't want to sell to the highest bidder. You want someone who's going to protect your business and preserve what you've built. Then I hit him with this. What if you financed 80% of the deal instead of just 40? You'd still get paid, but instead of taking a lump sum, you'd earn even more over time with interest. Now, most people assume that sellers would never go for this, but here's the truth. Many sellers actually prefer financing their own deals because it means that they get to make more money in the long run. Instead of just walking away with the lump sum, the seller would now have a steady stream of monthly payments plus interest. And best of all, he knew the business was in good hands. And guess what? He said yes. So let's break this down one last time. 80% seller financing paid over time with interest, 20% covered using credit stacking, 0% APR business credit cards, $0 of my own money used. That's it. That's how I turned a disaster into a 7-figure deal and walked away with the business without spending a dime of my own money. Now, obviously, this isn't a strategy for everyone. You need to know how to manage credit, negotiate deals, and build relationships the right way. But if you do it right, it's one of the fastest ways to go from business operator to business owner. So what do you think? Would you ever try a zero-down business acquisition strategy like this? And if you want me to break down how to find the right businesses for seller financing, let me know in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.